Part 3, the Arcadia. Okay, so they've gone through the sewer levels, and they've reached the ship, which is now empty of crew, but it still has a passenger log, so they go into the ship and find that it's very much like a research facility. And the floor is covered in these pop-up cryotube things. And, okay, they check the passenger log, and one of the entries is for Kmart. I kind of like the Kmart character. She was just some girl that had bunkered down in a Kmart during this zombie apocalypse, and that's where they found her. She didn't want to return to her old life, so instead of using her real name, she just introduced herself as Kmart. Okay, we have a character trait now. Pretty weak one, but more than most people get. So they see her entry on the manifest, and it says Kmart. Which means she would have had to have told them her name in order for them to put the entry in the log. You know, they're the only corporation left on the planet, so naturally they couldn't use, like, fingerprints and look up her personnel file. Whatever, her records aren't on file. Who knows? Not to mention, she was also captured using one of those robo-spider things that Claire managed to run away after being more or less captured. So, anyway, she had to tell them her name. I'm just making a big deal of this because it'll come up later. Wesker. Okay, in the games, Wesker was an interesting character. He started out as part of the STARS team, and you find out later that he was really a bad guy all along. Okay, that's a character trait. Or at least some interesting little thing about the character. It's a twist. First time you see Wesker in the movies, the end of Extinction, where he's already the director of Umbrella. So he's evil from the get-go. No twist at all, ever. And he's just at the very end as sequel bait. And yet he's in almost none of the film since the very beginning when he's escaping, as I mentioned, turned Jill back human. As he's fighting with her in the back of the plane, he kind of forgets that there's nobody piloting it, and it crashes into the side of a mountain. Alice is left bloody, burnt, whatever. And, obviously anybody's going to realize Wesker lived. He's still a super-powered monster thing. So, they finally get to the Arcadia, and he's in control of it. See, he's been fighting with the infection for control. Really big point here. And he needs fresh human DNA to keep the fight on the balance of him versus the virus taking over on his side by consuming fresh DNA. And he figures if he eats Alice, who is the only person to coexist with the T-virus successfully, then he'll be able to coexist with it successfully, or keep control over it indefinitely. That's what I'm trying to get at. So, fight ensues, and two stupid things come up. One, he throws Claire and Chris into those cryotubes, which somehow automatically know who they are. Claire, I can almost say, yeah, okay, he might have had it pre-programmed for Claire. For Chris, he's been in the bottom of a prison. You could not have satellite located him like you did Alice and her plane. For all anybody could have known, he was dead, and Wesker never knew who he was, since there was no STARS team in the movie franchise. Back in the first movie, if you played the games, you still didn't know how the movie would end, because instead of following the STARS team going into the Umbrella Laboratory to discover what happened and uncovering the evil plot, you have this team which is an employee team of militant recover team going into the Umbrella facility to find out what happened. They work for... they're evil too. So Wesker never knew Chris in the movie franchise. Couldn't have known about him. He took the sewers to get there, and yet for some reason when he's thrown into the cryotube, it scans him and knows his identity. Okay, why was Kmart's pod listed as Kmart then if it can just scan you and know your real name? That is just stupid and inconsistent. Okay, the other thing, Alice is still using the goddamn quarter cannons. Okay, sure, she uses it to blow his Wesker's brains out. You see this empty brain cavity, and Chris and Claire get out of their pod, or released from their pods, and they just start shooting the dead body over and over and over and over. He's dead. I don't care what the virus does, there's nothing salvageable of him without reconstructing him as a tyrant or something. That body is useless. If he's going to come back, it's going to be as a monster. They leave the room, which seals, and somehow Wesker manages to rebuild himself, get past them, get to a plane. And not only that, he's still Wesker. There was no risk of the virus ever taking over. What the hell? So he's on the plane as Wesker. He's already survived a crash land of that kind of plane just through being infected with a virus. I mean, he was in the dead front of that plane on crash and survived. So he gets onto this plane and finds out there's a bomb on the plane, because somehow Alice knew he was going to be able to do that and put a bomb on the plane. I would say, well, how did she know he was going to use that plane? But conveniently, for enough for the plot, one of the planes had the track extended. So naturally, that's the one he's going to choose, not the other 6. So, we're led to assume that Wesker would be unable to find any sort of cover in the plane, and that the bomb is just going to completely vaporize him. Because really, after you survive having your brains blown out, much less surviving a crash land which destroys the ship, he's going to be able to survive just a bomb. I mean, come on. Just as a side note, Nightmare on Elm Street, you kill Freddy by bringing him into the real world and kill him. And yet we still have many more movies, because that obviously didn't work. So when we get to number 6, their brilliant idea to kill him is to bring him into the real world and kill him. And that still doesn't work. That's kind of what's happening with Wesker. They're not doing anything that would kill him. Okay, so, Umbrella's over. You know, end of the movie, right? Nope, we still got sequel bait. So they decide to take over the ship because, why not, it's food and cover, and they can get more survivors before restarting the human race. Why not? Instead, an entire fleet of these helicopter plane armored things comes in, and it's led by some chick who is warning everyone about Alice, Chris, and Claire. How could she know about them? And not only that, she has a robo-spider on her. You know, one of those things that erases your memories and turns you feral. How is she leading people? What does it do? And why do I get the feeling that it's going to be a plot point that's resolved in the first 5 minutes of the next film, if ever one is made? Which I really hope it isn't. I mean, they really should not have made this a franchise. I really want there to be a reboot of the Resident Evil film franchise. Let's start with Jill and not have any of these goddamn fanfic characters that you turn into gods, while turning all of the real characters into sidekicks. It's just an insult to anyone that loves Resident Evil. So, my review: if you want a film to insult your intelligence, sure, go see Resident Evil Afterlife 3D. Not even the action sequences are all that good. All of the fights are a few seconds long. They just inflate it by turning everything into slow-mo. There is nothing redeeming about this film. None of the characters are interesting, or at least interesting and survive. Nothing I wanted to see is actually in the film. It was before the film. It's just a horrible movie to a franchise that's been getting worse and worse and worse. So, don't see the film unless you want something to complain about, like I just did. So, see it.